folks, welcome to my best films of 2022 list. Yay! That's right, the Booktuber is doing the film list. That's how you know this is going to be an intelligent, rational, educational list. I'm going to put Elvis at every spot.
It's the most embarrassing performance of my life.
There were a lot of really fucking great movies that came out last year, and I'm annoyed that I didn't get the video out earlier, but I wanted to catch up on them all. I wanted to see everything that I could see. And there were a couple of movies that came in near the end that I hadn't seen beforehand that I really loved. But for the most part, the list was really strong this year, what I made. I looked back at that top 10 and I was like, damn, like that's a fucking handful right there. I have a small list of my honourable mentions here. All of these movies were really great. They just weren't quite good enough for my list. I debated over these for quite a while. What do we have here? We have The Eternal Daughter. We have Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think. I think Tars maybe in that section, or maybe it's further up. Sorry for the spoiler. But yeah, even my runner-ups were really strong this year, and I very much enjoyed the movies in 2022. Everything was great. The Oscars were really good. Brendan Fraser won. Thank fuck. There were, like, last year was just great. It was a great year for me. It's the best year since Parasite, probably, that we've had. Even though 2020 had some great movies, there were less of them. 2021 I'll make a list for some other time. But yeah, this list, it's got a good mixture, a good healthy mixture of international films, documentary, indie films, big films. I've got everything in here, and I'm very happy at the quality of cinema, says the unknown Booktuber with 100 subscribers. So anyway, enjoy, leave a like, and tell me what your favorites were of last year. I love the idea of posing this to a Booktuber audience. I love to know what people who are into reading more than watching movies, what their favorite movies were of last year. So please leave the comments. I'm very interested. So without further ado, let's roll right into number 10, baby. I love this movie almost ironically. The first Knives Out is incredibly tight and obviously really well written and like basically perfect. Everything positive people have said about that movie is totally true. This movie is almost spam. Every single Agatha Christie twist that I know of is in this movie. There's twin siblings, there's death that's unintended, there's blackmail, it's all of it spammed with just twist after twist in this movie. It shifts your focus and frameworks for suspicion nearly every 30 seconds, and it's an unbelievable amount of fun. It's hilarious, the ending is pretty great, nearly all the jokes hit, Edward Norton and Daniel Craig are the best parts, it's absolutely ridiculous, and I'm gonna go watch it again right now.
Freaking Miles, man. Genius.
That first one's a Fibonacci sequence.
This is a unique foreign movie where the characters that talk in the foreign language don't need subtitles, but the drunk man that talks in English most definitely does. That father sounded like he was speaking in tongues for real. It was unbelievable. The first time I saw this movie, I thought it was average, I thought it was fine, but I think the stress of seeing it at a film festival and having to run to another movie afterwards and stuff like that really dragged down my experience of it. But watching it by myself, I enjoyed it infinitely more. The little girl in this movie is actually phenomenal. She has such an expressive, like, young face, and the native Irish Gaelic just sounds so beautiful. The fact that it's based off a Claire Keegan book is not surprising to me at all, and I hope this gives her even more exposure. I like this movie a lot. Me likey, go check it out.
Colleen Kuhn and Colleen Kena.
Der sier med det skadelige
There is not only vomit in this movie, but there is also poopy in this movie, so I'm afraid it was guaranteed a place on this list from the start. This movie, I'm sure you've all seen it, it's split into 3 parts, and all 3 parts are radically different in location and in, like, content, but of those 3, my favorite is easily the first. There's a scene in the car where the camera's moving between the 2 models, and there's a windscreen wiper that's adding nerve to the situation because of its squeaking. That was incredible. The elevator doors are closing and Harris Dickinson is going goblin mode. That was great. Yeah, Ruben Ostlund is just fantastic. He really is the good version of Adam McKay, a director who can, like, stage scenes interestingly and is able to edit a movie legibly and make it make sense, unlike dumbass McKay and his scissor hands. The more I think about the ending, the more I love it, just like how I respect anything that has the balls to have a 20-minute vomit poopy joke and then still end ambiguously and in a film bro kind of way. This is a fun time, easily his best movie, you should definitely watch it.
You looks paid for the tickets, not bad, huh?
So what do you do?
I sell shit.
This movie seems to have gone under a lot of people's radar. It's about insane people rioting in France, and it follows a trio of brothers trying to find each other and stop it, or at least that's kind of the plot. In reality, this movie, for a large portion of it absolutely does not have a plot. This movie banks almost entirely on one facet of its production, which is its cinematography. There are some unbelievable Lubezki-style long takes on an incredible scale, and it's incredibly exciting. The first shot of this movie is like a 20-minute long take as the main characters break into a police station and then flee back to their kind of hideout. And it's all in one take, and it's absolutely insane. It's one of the most insane things I've ever seen, and the movie has several more examples of that first shot. The story is pretty compelling when it is there, and the middle section of this movie is great and fast-moving and tense as anything. The ending is a little bit shit, and that's the thing that people rag on with this movie, that's why it's been dragged down, but if the story was better and the characters were slightly more defined, then this would be the best movie of the year without even a question. I was really unsure of where I stood with Holy Spider in its first half. It felt too formulaic and unsubtle when talking about the broader context. There's a lot of scenes of misogyny towards the main girl, and they were a little cringe. It felt a little kind of limp in its goals, and I feared the movie would just go how I had it in my head. This movie is about a serial killer who kills prostitutes in a holy city, the holy city of Mashhad. And it's about a reporter trying to find him and stop him, and it's about the society at the time. Nearly every single issue I had with the movie dissipates in the amazing second half this movie has. One of the best second and third acts I've ever seen. From the second the main character enters the scary guy's apartment, the movie kicks into a different gear. It's the gear I wanted to see from the beginning. The lack of visual flair or style became something I grew to like by the end. It engaged me more in like the themes of it. It traded any kind of narrative tiptoeing and sort of general facts that it had at the beginning for the brute force of its social commentary. The shocking aftermath of the real events and how they're put in the movie gives so much playroom for statements about Islam and its issues in modern society. I was a little confused what changed so quickly to get him to be hanged, but I loved his reaction. One part of the movie that's consistently excellent is the serial killer, who's the main character, his psyche. All the mentions of his being a martyr and his connections to society were the best and most revealing parts of the movie. The very ending of the movie absolutely blew me away with the sun and this like final shot that like threw me, and I started the clapping in the theater when it was done. The acting is all pretty phenomenal. The main two are really great. The serial killer is especially good. He's like scarily rational and really realistic. And the lead woman is good, even if it felt like she was in a bit more of like a Western movie. But honestly, all the standouts of the cast were the serial killer's family. There were a few scenes in the aftermath, we'll call it, with the wife of the serial killer and some of the victims' families that choked me up. It's this like incredible breed of suffering that's so hard to truly like grasp. It's crazy. The wife of the serial killer has this small arc where she realizes how society is treating him, and then she realizes what he's done outside of her like lens of viewing things, and it's not played up in an obvious way. You see this like slow realization of what he's done, and I thought it was like fantastic acting, some of the best of the year from that small bit part, basically, the wife of the serial killer. The movie suffered a little from a lack of narrative voice or style, at least maybe in that first half, and if it committed to the same intensity of the second half the whole way through the movie, it would really be up there for like best movie of the year, best of the decade. There were several moments where I whispered like, "Ooh, fuck me," or like I shivered physically, and only one of those moments was for any of the killings that we see, because none of the murders in this are the disturbing parts of the movie. I think this is essential viewing and everybody should watch it.
یعنی میگن این در واقع این شخص طبق فتوا عمل میکنه.
Deadstream! I love Deadstream! This movie is like Evil Dead if the effects were worse and the main character was ever so slightly more racist. Only a little bit more. This movie is about a dickhead Twitch streamer who streams in a haunted house and then he gets attacked by a demon. And the main character is on a Bruce Campbell level legitimately. He's so wacky, he has these incredible one-liners, it's literally just this one guy running through a house, and every now and again he'll talk to chat, and then he'll get attacked by a demon. And it's the most fun movie I've ever fucking seen. Some of the best one-liners I've ever seen in a movie. There's a bit before he fights the demon at the end, and he says, "I'd like to dedicate this broadcast to all the blacks and Mexicans out there." And I think I've said that more than once in my day-to-day life. This movie is totally on the shoulders of the main character, who's also one of the directors, and he just commits to the bit. He just walks around a house and he's like setting up cameras, and it's so much fun. As a horror movie, it totally delivers as well. It has great gross out stuff, great physical gore. He gets his own piss poured on him. He gets thrown down staircases. He has to chop his own finger off, and when that happened, I cheered by myself in my own room like an absolute loon. It's one of the most satisfying movies I've ever seen. There's exposition dumps in this movie to explain the lore, but it's done in the way that internet nerds phone in who are fans of his channel, and that was my favorite stuff in the movie. How many other times are exposition dumps the best parts of the movie? That's how good the writing is. This is the movie. This is Deadstream. It's the best thing ever. Some of the makeup doesn't look too great. I love that it's all practical though. There was very little CGI from what I could tell, and that's awesome that it commits to looking a bit sort of goofy and rubbery, even if I wish it went a little harder. I guess that does kind of make it look like a fake YouTube prank thing, which I guess is kind of in theme, so maybe it's all forgivable anyway. I also don't love how the movie ends, but I don't know how else the directors were meant to end it, so yeah. I have so many friends I'm gonna make watch this. So many of my friends have already seen it because I won't shut up about it. It's so much fun. This is like the hardest recommend on this whole list.
Lily King 98, Sean, please do the right thing and help the spirits of this house find rest. Hell no! I'm not an exorcist, Lily King 98.
The way information is delivered in this movie is very strange. The editing of Decision to Leave often implies things indirectly, and there's actually quite a lot you have to keep track of in your head, because there are sometimes gaps of assumed knowledge, or just the order of things was so odd to me. And that's mostly because of just the batshit editing, and there are some montage sequences in this that are going to become iconic in the next few decades, for sure. But where this movie particularly shines is when it is at its absolute simplest. The two main performances are amazing, and the romance is really evocative and emotional, and yeah, super romantic. I think they kiss once in the whole movie, and that's the limit of their affection. That's absolutely as far as it goes. But the way these two rather sort of broken and incomplete people connect is just wonderful. The score is fantastic, the editing, as I've said, is batshit and fun, and the cinematography is... It's Park Chan-wook. There's one of the first shots of the movie where you can see swirling flashlights above a forest. That looks beautiful. There's this shot from a dead man's eyes looking up at a mountain, and the main detective is at the top of the mountain, and you can see him while ants crawl over the lens, and it's meant to be the eyes of the dead man. It's bonkers. There's some absolutely just nutty, complicated ideas for storyboarding, and I don't know how the director knew they would look as good as they would, or that they would work. And this does nothing but show that Park Chan-wook is one of those rare, truly visual directors. I felt it dragged occasionally once I knew where the story was going on a rewatch, but these elements I've mentioned are the things that hold it up as one of the best movies I saw this year.
그 친절한 형사의 심장을 가져다 주세요. 난 좀 갖고 싶네.
Ah, yes, we all know what this is. So this was a stage play. I have not actually seen the stage play, but I've seen clips of it online, and it looks,
People are amazing!
It looks a little cringe. But thankfully, Darren Aronofsky was the one who showed interest in this as a property, and he took this absolutely ridiculous idea, and he showed the apocalypse that's inside it. This is an incredibly dynamic, well-made movie for what is clearly a stage play of limited screen adaptation. The cinematography is awesome, and it's all in one apartment. I love that Sadie Sink controls the frame whenever she walks around, and she's usually at the edge of the screen, so it's like she's pushing the camera itself. The lighting was excellent and atmospheric. The score is the best of the year. There's all these nautical sounding instruments and deep basses that give the whole movie, again, this apocalyptic, menacing edge. The mixing of it was also really great. I never felt manipulated by it, and the first time the music like really hits, which is the first time Brendan Fraser really starts crying, it hit me like an absolute truck. Brendan Fraser is the obvious standout here. I screamed like a madman when he won that Oscar. There's a clip on my channel of it, because I thought for the whole year it was going to go to the baby-faced little Elvis fucker. But Brendan Fraser's performance is so much more than crying Oscar bait. He's so totally in the character, and his pauses are perfect and mature, and seem to come from an actor who has been doing it for decades. Charlie's a man with a specific moral code and an ideology where he sees the good and the light in everyone but himself, and the ending is him finally reaching that for himself as well, and finding the anchor point for that. Watching clips from the stage play and seeing the differences between the main character performances is so interesting, and only affirms how good Aronofsky is at interpretation and directing actors, and how expressive filmmaking can be when you can just wedge the camera right in there. I thought the essay was probably by the boyfriend the whole time, so when Sadie Sink started reading it, that bit just fucked me up. The whole movie's going for the tears, but it didn't feel like it was cheesy or openly manipulative like others feel it is, and that's a fair criticism. And I think that's just a personal thing, but I had no issue with that at all. It really affected me, this movie. But you are wrong for thinking this movie is fatphobic. You are incorrect for that.
Look at me. Who would want me to be a part of their life?
This is an absolutely incredible, ethereal documentary. I saw this in the State Theatre in Sydney during the film festival with a totally silent crowd on a massive screen, and I just had my mind blown, basically. How rare does that truly happen, having your mind blown, and especially from an archival documentary? Some of the footage from this movie is ingrained into my head. The story of these two crazy people who explore volcanoes was really fun, but the hundreds of hours of footage they shot is like second to none. This movie is at its best when it's a National Geographic documentary, but not only is the footage honestly a step above that when it comes to what we're seeing, considering how dangerous it must have been to get, but there are stylistic choices that show that the director had a real presence in this. Miranda July's narration is super unique and crystallized, and the editing is unbelievable. It's an entire narrative we experience, although it's an abstract way of putting it. We are seeing these people progress chronologically, and every time I think about the editors for having to trawl through hundreds of hours of footage to make 90 minutes of super short, really well-paced movie is insane to me. There are some powerful, beautiful visuals that ignite a sense of awe. To get through to me, a documentary has to not only have a compelling subject, but push the boundaries in some way. The idiosyncratic personality of this film really helps, and the two subjects are likable and funny, and really endearing in how singular and unselfish their goals are. This movie's thesis and message it leaves you with, combined with this super varied and insane footage, makes this absolutely one of a kind. Check it out. Yeah, this was a no-brainer for me. This isn't just like a cute kids movie from A24. This is something where every single element of this movie is just absolutely on fire. Marcel isn't just a cute character, he isn't a minion or a porg or something. He's resourceful and he's intelligent and he knows what up. He got the street smarts. A lot of people go awe at this movie because Marcel is cute, and I do too, but there are some filmmaking aspects to this that are absolutely insane. The animation in this movie of stop motion and real environments is such a strange concept, and there's a shot where Marcel is talking and doing something while his grandmother is standing on a keyboard, and the keyboard is pressing the letter Z, and it goes up on the laptop screen, and I just paused and went, hold on, okay, so if it's live action, did they time every movement Marcel did so that it lined up perfectly with the speed that the letter Z would naturally appear on the laptop if you hold down that key? How did they keep the flow? Did they split the image? And the grandma is not standing stationary, she's like moving ever so slightly, so how the fuck did they do that? It's things like that that break my brain, and if it is cheated, I don't care because it's so seamless and it makes me scratch my head in this movie in just total wonder. And not just the filmmaking, but also the writing. There are some really complicated emotional situations that the movie hits on in a little over 90 minutes. The grandmother is deliberately trying to seem healthy so that her son will pursue his dreams because she knows that if she seems sick or like she needs his care, then he will forsake those dreams for her. That's a complicated, very specific emotional place the movie takes you, and the strength of the writing is that you don't see the loopholes and the trajectory to get you to that point. It hits like a ton of bricks too because the characters are just so insanely likable, especially the grandmother, and Isabella Rossellini is amazing in it. She just breaks your heart. All of the jokes land, the editing is really tight, the intro to everything in the first 10 minutes is just perfect, and the mockumentary format lets the movie get away with certain plot elements, or like introductions to new ideas, with more dexterity, even if it still does these things effortlessly. All of the animation is flawless, the spiders are very cute, when all the characters come in at the end they all look so distinct and crazy, and the actual animated department of this movie was just off the chain. One of them is voiced by Nathan Fielder, I didn't see that coming. This movie is absolutely outstanding and I cannot recommend it enough, and it's my favourite movie of 2022 by a country mile.
I mean, I don't want my voice in it.
Well, that's up to you.
So stop asking me questions.
Okay. Do your parents work? Have you ever met a chef? What happens if you break this? Have you ever eaten a raspberry? And what was that like?
So that was my list of my top 10 movies of 2022. I can't wait for more cinema this year. Barbie on the list, Oppenheimer on the list, what the fuck else? Mario on the list. Anyway, thanks guys for watching this video. I'm gonna spend the next couple of months covering some of the international booker stuff and reading some other things. I've got some projects lined up that I'm editing currently that I want to get out hopefully soon. So we'll see how that all goes. But thank you guys for watching. And bye!